Ah, the creative process. It sounds so juicy and exciting. And so many books and courses that I've read, and I'm sure you have, make it sound so exciting, right? Do a do a manifestation process and live your wildest dreams and desires. I mean, it sounds so great. And yet in practice, it can feel rather elusive. To me, the creative process needs to be authentic to a person, and it also has to be sustainable. And it took me a while to figure out what that meant for me. For me, when something is sustainable, the process itself energizes me as much as I contribute to or give my energy or focus to the process. Another way I see sustainability is, not just around energy and vitality, but how the process I have when I'm creating or making something in my day, in my life, regardless of what it is reliable and it's something I can fall back on and trust in new life situations, in other aspects of life. And so a lot of manifestation or how to create your, best life or create your project or create perfect relationships and wealth, all of these courses tell us a lot of good stuff, right? A lot of truths. Visualize what you want, have your goal, feel into it, be grateful, do positive affirmations, release outcomes. And these are all great and correct. But I mean, I don't know how it's worked for you, but it hasn't always worked for me. It's worked once in a while. And this is where I got to really understand the depth and the truth of making something yours, making something authentically yours in a way that you can sustain it and it can sustain you. There's a simplicity in learning what this is for each and every one of us so that this becomes what we can rely on in our unique way. And each of us will have a different one. And we may use many elements of some of these basic manifestation processes. But to me, that is what they are. Anything a book or a course might tell you forms the basis, a foundational structure upon which to then use our own essence, uniqueness, tenets, values, energy. And that is how we can continue to build and refine the process. And what better time to do that than now, this very potent springtime Aries season? So I have some learnings, I suppose, to share. And these are both my failures and my successes in how I came to refine and realize aspects of my creative process. And again, it's not a static thing, right? It evolves and changes with us in life. Towards the end of the season, in the last few videos, I have ways to like test out how this creative process works. And these are tests that I do. And they're not tests that we fail. They're tests that just inform me how I'm actually doing with this. I'm going to share that later on. But for now, I wanted to actually tease out the beautiful time and moment that we are in and why this is important and why I think you should care, because you and I are creators. We are living, breathing, creative life force, right? Manifest in human form and everything that that means. So this means that often you and I desire moments, experiences, things, outcomes based on whatever it is that we want, right? Maybe it's our heart's desire, our mind's desire, our soul's desires. Often we can't even tell the difference. And when and like that's all lovely and that is a beautiful thing to anchor into and rely on. And because we are in human form, we get afraid, we get disheartened, we get distracted, we get stubborn and rigid, we get fearful and doubtful. And this is the Aries energy call to action this season in 2025 specifically. And it's very potent because of all the Aries and all the planets that are in Aries at the moment, in the zodiac sign of Aries, along with the sun. Next week, we also have a solar eclipse in the sign of Aries. And all of this call that I just mentioned is to get to know our creative process in a way that sustains it through the year, right? And again, that means a lot of things. So to start with this video, I thought we could do something together. So I'd love to invite you to think of something that you are starting, that you are creating now. And maybe you haven't actually started creating it. Maybe you've wanted it for a long time, or you're thinking about it, but you haven't done it yet. For ease, I'm going to use my example, which is, funnily enough, creating a better relationship with Substack, and how I wanted to, my desire. So I'm going to use that as an example for me, and you can follow along. But I would really encourage you to think of something that matters to you around this creative energy that you are enacting, or you've been wanting to enact for a while. So my desire was looking at a lot of Substack's growth, as a platform. All these new people are coming in, there's new contributors, there's new readers, and I wanted a piece of that pie, right? I wanted a really awesome Substack newsletter with like 500 paid subscribers and like 2,000 free subscribers and all of the stuff. And I wanted to generate a sense of wealth and value. And that was sort of my goal. And with that goal in mind, my initial process was I started looking at what everyone else was doing. And while there was a lot of excitement and energy for me, um, I couldn't sustain it. I got in my head. That excitement then turned quickly into comparison and self-judgment. I was distracted by a whole bunch of other things. And so before, the process of create an intention and visualize it and feel it, like that manifestation process that some of us know about, before I could even get to that, I was already in a lull with energy, with focus, with even the desire to do anything with it. And so this is where, and this is so potent this week, in the week leading up to the solar eclipse, which is actually, I think, this weekend, because sometimes in our innocence and in our excitement, we get so caught up in wanting to create something new that we forget that we don't actually have the space or the energy or the time, because we've been carrying forward a whole bunch of other things that we have not completed, that have not come to fullness, that still require so much of us that we don't even have time to create the things that we want. And there is a wisdom in evaluating and accepting that. Of course, in the reality of life, it gets a lot of people, I've heard people say this, and I've felt this too, we can always put off our dreams until tomorrow. But there is, and that specifically is not what I'm speaking to. What I'm speaking to is, if we are creating something new, then we need to make sure that we bookend, closet, finish, close out other things potentially that may be taking our time, our focus, and our energy, so that we can focus on the new. And that is something that a lot of times we aren't good at. And that was a big learning for me this week, when I realized that I've been trying to build all this new Substack stuff, but I'm also doing 15 other things. And really, my day, my energy, my focus, it's just too diffuse. This is where we sometimes distract ourselves from our true desires. And this to me is, an aspect of just before creation, to actually make sure and ask ourselves, why are we doing the thing that we want to do? Who is it actually serving? Is it towards some idea or notion of success or love, or we want to be seen in a certain way? Or is it actually serving an aspect of ourselves? Is it serving our dream? Is it serving the world? And then secondly, is now the right time? Do we actually have the time, the energy, the focus, the vitality, the constancy to give whatever it is that we're creating the necessary cultivation? It's like, if in my Substack example, I was trying to build a new website, redo courses, continue, ramp up new projects at my job, while also kind of half-heartedly desiring to expand and grow my Substack. The truth is, the truth is, I came to a realization that there's a different way to do that, right? And I had to really sit with my goals and transform them into intentions. So my goal, for example, and we're encouraged in society to have measurable, impactful, tangible goals, right? So one of the goals I had scribbled down was 500 paid subscribers. And this is a lovely goal, but it's not an intention. And the thing with creative process is, in my experience, it works better when you have a clear intention that you can anchor towards, rather than a goal that you sometimes, or often, depending on who you are, judge yourself against and then fall into the failure energy. That may work for some people. I am just someone it does not work for. And so I had to go through this reflective internal process of sitting and transforming my tangible goal into an intention. And my intention became the generation of value and wealth in the content I was creating. And this was interesting because I took the numeric, right? Like some hundred subscribers, some hundred paid subscribers, and I had to distill it down to when I open Substack and I am creating a video, how do I want to feel? I want to feel that it's worth my time. I want to feel that it's worth your time. I want to feel like I contributed something to you, to your life, to the world. And I would love if you felt like you received something from that. And so for me, the generation of wealth and value is not just wealth in terms of money, but wealth in terms of perspective, wealth in terms of process, wealth in terms of a reminder that we are all creators, certainly wealth also in terms of money and interaction, and the sweet, simple joy of creating, which is very much aligned with spring season and just the energy of right now. And it's so interesting because the weather, to me, at least where I am in Toronto, Canada, is very supportive of that. Officially, it's been spring for a few days, but it is really cold and windy. And oftentimes this is commonly what we hear. Like I hear in the city as well, right? Like we complain that the weather is not the thing that we want. And so everyone's ready for spring and has maybe tucked away their winter clothes in preparation for this warmer time, but the weather is still cold. And again, to me, this is another reminder of, have we actually closed out the things that we think we have closed out? Have we actually created some space, taken the risk of leaving our creative soil fallow for a few days before new growth can happen? Have we actually ended something out? So last weekend, I was completely in my head about this whole Substack journey and how to, get more subscribers before I had realized everything that I had just shared. And when I sat with it, nothing was coming. And instead, I saw myself cleaning my apartment. And in trust of visions, I suppose, I closed my computer and I cleaned my apartment. I spring cleaned it. I brought down my whole kitchen. I cleaned everything. I reorganized things. I purged a whole bunch in different rooms and from different cabinets. It took me about 2 full days, and it completely reset the energy in my house along with my focus and motivation, and has enabled me to start this week that we're in now with some more space, physical space in my apartment, but also mental space and emotional space. And so I will end this video here with this reminder, with this call that in order to truly get to know what our authentic creative process is, we first need the space to clean out, to release what has been, including our identity attachment to everything that we created yesterday or what we created last year or last month or last decade. Spring is a new year in the zodiac wheel, and for any culture that follows the lunar calendar, a lot of these cultures are celebrating their respective new years like within the last month or so, right? These new moons that we are coming to now signifies New Year's. And so it's different than the energy of January 1st of any year. And so this is a call that before creation comes a sense of clearing, comes a sense of closure, so that we actually have the mental, emotional, if you have access to it, spiritual and physical energy to actually figure out what your creative process is and rest simply in the sustainability of it. So that is the invitation this week as we move through the weekend. We have the solar eclipse that is, again, a reminder to close out what has not been serving us, what is done, what maybe served us for a long time, but now in 2025, in this new cycle, it doesn't really have its place anymore. So that is the invitation. That is the energy. And we are going to continue to tease out different aspects of the creative process, including figuring out if the process we currently have actually works for us and what all of that entails. And also empowering ourselves to take the things we learn in courses, in books, and actually go through the integrative process to make it our own so that it serves us. With that, I wish you a beautiful spring weekend and rest of your week, and I will see you next week.